was 10 seconds from becoming Mrs. William Ashford when a homeless boy outside my mansion said 4 words that ended my life. Not my wedding, my life. They found me 3 hours later in the conservatory, still wearing my corset, surrounded by shredded gardenias, unable to explain why I'd fled my own rehearsal dinner. 200 guests, the Vanderbilts, the Astors, my mother's face like carved marble, my father's hand on his pistol. But all I could hear was that boy's voice, thin as paper, certain as God. I know your mother. Let me tell you what happens when the truth arrives in rags. My name is Caroline Van Rensselaer, and 6 days ago I was perfect. Perfect lineage, Dutch patroons back to 1650, Manhattan real estate that printed money while we slept, perfect education, Miss Porters, fluent French, acceptable watercolors, a laugh that made men feel clever. Perfect match, William Ashford, 34, steel fortune, jaw like a Roman senator, eyes that never quite reached his smile. Our wedding was the event of the 1889 season. St. Patrick's Cathedral, 12 bridesmaids, a dress that cost more than most men earned in a decade. Mother had been planning it since I was born. Marriage is the only war women are allowed to win, she told me, fastening my grandmother's pearls around my throat. They felt like a collar. I didn't love William. I didn't need to. The boy appeared on a Thursday. I was returning from my final fitting, stepping from our carriage on Fifth Avenue, that stretch where the new mansions rise like cathedrals to American ambition. Ours was limestone, 5 stories, with windows that caught the sun like champagne. He was standing across the street, maybe 12 years old, clothes gray with street dirt, hair the color of wet straw, but his face. I stopped walking. My maid, Margaret, touched my elbow. "Miss Caroline, he's nobody." But his eyes were my mother's eyes, that specific shade of amber flecked with green, the color of expensive sherry held to the lamplight. I'd never seen those eyes in anyone else. He didn't approach, didn't beg, just stood there with one hand pressed to the iron gate of our neighbor's mansion, watching me with an expression I couldn't name. Recognition, maybe, or accusation. I should have gone inside. Instead, I crossed the street, my skirts gathering filth from the cobblestones, Margaret hissing behind me. Up close, he smelled like the alley behind the fish market. His knuckles were scabbed. There was a bruise on his temple, the yellow-green of old decay. "You're blocking the walkway," I said, my voice all mother's training. He tilted his head, slowly, like he was memorizing me. "You don't remember me." "I've never seen you before in my life." "No," he agreed, "but I've seen you 4 years ago, outside the milliner's on Broadway. You were with her, your mother." My pulse became a physical thing, a trapped bird. "You're lying." But my voice had no conviction. I was calculating his age, the timeline, the way mother sometimes stared at nothing during dinner, her face like a death mask. "My father was Patrick Brennan, Irish, worked as your grandfather's coachman. They met in the carriage house. She was 18, he was 25. When she got pregnant, your grandfather paid him $200 to disappear, paid the orphanage another $100 to take me, told her I died. That's insane." "Is it?" He stepped closer. "Look at me." I looked. His amber eyes, the shape of his mouth, the way one eyebrow lifted higher than the other when he spoke, exactly like mother's tell when she was lying. Dear God, what do you want? The question tasted like copper, like blood, like everything I was about to lose. $500, he said, simply. Enough to get to San Francisco. Start over. You'll never see me again. $500? I spent more than that on gloves. And if I refuse? He pulled out a second photograph. This one, recent, clear, undeniable. My mother, just last year, standing outside St. Luke's orphanage on the Lower East Side, handing an envelope to a man in priestly clothing, her face angled away from the camera, but I knew the set of her shoulders, the tilt of her head. She knew he existed. She'd been paying to keep him hidden. "I'll bring this to the papers," the boy said. "Let them ask why Caroline Van Rensselaer's mother visits orphanages in secret, why she pays priests to keep certain records buried, what she's so afraid of." "Come back tomorrow," I whispered. "Midnight, the servants' entrance." He nodded once and disappeared into the crowd like smoke. I stood there until Margaret physically pulled me inside, her hands shaking on my arms. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't think. I sat through the rehearsal dinner like a clockwork doll, smiling when William toasted our future, nodding when Mother discussed the flower arrangements for the cathedral. All I could see was that photograph, my mother, young, smiling, in love with a coachman. My mother, who'd taught me that love was a luxury we couldn't afford, that marriage was strategy, that our name was the only currency that mattered. My mother, who'd hidden a child like evidence of a crime. What else had she done? I waited until the house fell silent. Then I went to Mother's private sitting room, the one even Father wasn't allowed to enter. I'd been inside exactly 3 times in my life, always supervised, always briefly. The door was locked. I used a hat pin.
The room smelled like her perfume and old secrets, rose oil and something underneath it, something sour. The walls were papered in pale blue silk. There was a writing desk by the window, locked drawers beneath. Another hat pin. Inside, letters bundled in black ribbon, dozens of them, all addressed to P.B. in Mother's handwriting, Patrick Brennan. I read one. "My dearest heart, I have done something unforgivable. Father says the child must go, that no one will have me if they know. I signed the papers this morning. They promised me he would have a good life. They promised me I would forget. I will never forget." There were 17 letters, spanning 17 years. The last one dated 3 months ago. The orphanage burned. 43 children died. The priest says there was no time to evacuate the East Wing, says the fire started near the furnace, says it was God's will. I know what I paid for. I know what I've become. I sat there on Mother's Persian carpet, surrounded by evidence of a lifetime of lies, and something inside me snapped clean in half. The orphanage fire, I remembered it. February. The papers had covered it for weeks. Tragic accident claims innocence. Mother had donated $5,000 to the relief fund. Blood money. She hadn't just hidden him, she'd tried to erase him. I was still sitting there when Mother found me at dawn. She stood in the doorway in her dressing gown, hair loose, I'd never seen her hair loose, and looked at the scattered letters like a woman looking at her own corpse. "So now you know," she said. No anger, no panic, just exhaustion that bent her spine. "You killed those children. I paid for renovations." Her voice was dust. "The priest said the furnace was old, unsafe. I gave him money to fix it. He pocketed it instead. When the fire happened, She closed her eyes. I was relieved. Relieved. He was the last evidence, the only one who could prove it, and then God solved my problem with a match and some rotten wood. She said it like she was discussing wallpaper. "He survived," I said. Mother went white, whiter than her pearls, whiter than the lies she'd built her life on. "No," the priest said. "The priest lied. He's alive. He found me. He has proof." I watched my mother age 20 years in 20 seconds. "How much does he want?" $500. She laughed. Actually laughed. It sounded like something breaking. "Give him 5,000, 10,000, whatever it takes. And if he comes back, if he tells someone else." Mother crossed to her desk, opened a different drawer, pulled out a small pistol with a mother-of-pearl handle. "Then we handle it differently."
She said it so simply, like she'd thought about this before, like she'd thought about it often. "You're insane." "I'm practical." Mother set the pistol on the desk between us. "You think your father's fortune came from wise investments? You think the Ashfords built their steel empire with fair wages and clean hands? This city is built on bodies, Caroline. Our mansions are mausoleums. The only question is whether you're strong enough to live in yours." "I won't kill him." "Then marry William. Combine our fortunes. Let the lawyers handle it." She leaned closer. "That boy is a complication. Complications can be managed. Money, threats, immigration papers that put him on a boat to somewhere we don't have extradition treaties. You have options." "Those aren't options. Those are crimes." "No, darling. Those are solutions. Crimes are what poor people commit." I met the boy at midnight. He came to the servants' entrance like I'd asked, his face pale in the gaslight. I had an envelope. Inside, a bank draft for $500 and a train ticket to San Francisco dated for tomorrow. Also inside, a note. "Your father didn't disappear. My mother had him killed. Steamboat accident, 1878. You were 4. I found the payments in her records. I'm so sorry." I watched him read it, watched his face crumble, watched him become something harder. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve the truth, and because I can't marry William Ashford knowing what I know now, about any of it." "What do you know?" I told him about the letters, the orphanage, the gun. I told him about the Ashford fortune built on immigrant workers who died in factory fires that were never accidents. I told him that my perfect wedding was a treaty between 2 empires built on graves. "So don't marry him," the boy said. "And do what? I have no money of my own, no skills. If I break the engagement, I destroy both families' social standing. Father will disown me. I'll have nothing." "You'll have your soul." I almost laughed. "Souls don't pay rent." He looked at me for a long moment, then he took the envelope. "You're just like her," he said quietly. "You see the cage, you know it's wrong, but you'll stay in it anyway because the lock is made of gold." He left. I stood in the dark servants' corridor, still wearing my engagement ring, and knew he was right. I married William Ashford 6 days later, St. Patrick's Cathedral, 12 bridesmaids, a dress like a monument to beautiful lies. When the priest asked if anyone objected, I heard my half-brother's voice in my head. "You're just like her." No one objected. I became Mrs. William Ashford. I moved into a mansion larger than the one I'd left. I learned to smile at charity dinners for orphanages and never, ever think about what those donations were buying. 3 months after the wedding, I received a package. Inside, the photograph of my mother, burnt around the edges, and a note in handwriting I didn't recognize. "Train derailed outside Chicago. No survivors. So sorry for your loss." My mother's handwriting on the envelope it came in. I burned it all. Sometimes I still see his amber eyes in my mirror.